On Wednesday, you were given an assignment. It was 6 questions for you to do for solving inequalities, and I've actually worked out all 6 of those just to help you guys out because I know that I'm not here, and I know that's kind of a scary thing to have your teacher not here. So the biggest thing I want to remind you is when you're solving inequalities is that if you divide by a negative number, you must switch the direction of the inequality sign. This is the only thing that makes graphing and solving inequalities different than solving regular equations. So our first problem that you had to solve was 3x plus 4 plus 8x is less than 3 plus 2x minus 17. So just like with solving equations, remember we're going to draw our line, we're going to label our sides x's and everything else, and our job is simply to figure out what is on the wrong side of the line. So that means if it has an x, it should be on the left side. So I need to move the plus 4 because this plus 4 does not have an x attached to it. So when I move it, it's going to become a minus 4, and then it's gone from the left side of the equation. Just looking at the rest of the left side, 3 has an x with it, 8 has an x with it, so I'm good there. Moving to the right side, 3 is just 3. Here I have a 2x, so that means I need to move the 2x to the x side. So I'm going to move it, and it's going to become a minus 2x. So that's gone. And then everything else is on the correct side, so I can now do my math. So I have 3 plus 8, which is 11 minus 2. It's going to give me 9x on the left side is less than. And then on the right side, I have 3 minus 17 minus 4, and that is going to give me negative 18. I would suggest using your calculator to help you figure that out. So now I have 9x is less than negative 18. To get x completely by itself, remember that 9 and that x are multiplied. So to undo that, I'm going to divide by 9. Notice this 9 that I'm dividing by is a positive 9 because this 9 was positive. So I'm not going to flip my inequality sign, so my answer is x's that are less than negative 2. That means anything I plug in that's less than negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, negative 6, all the way to negative infinity would make this equation work out. My next problem, number 2, says negative 2 times x plus 7 is greater than or equal to 3x minus 5. So I'm going to draw my line, and I'm going to label my sides. My left side is going to be my x side. My right side is going to be everything else. Before I can start moving stuff around, I do need to make sure that I don't have parentheses. So whenever I see parentheses, remember I must distribute. So negative 2 times x is negative 2x. Negative 2 times 7, and it's a positive 7, so a negative times a positive is a negative 14, and then is greater than or equal to 3x minus 5. So I'm just bringing down what was on the right side. So now that I've gotten rid of all my parentheses, my job is to move stuff around to make sure it's on the correct side. So if it's on the left, it should have an x attached to it, which means my minus 14 is in the wrong place. So it's going to become a plus 14 on the right side, and then it's gone. And I'm looking to see what else is in the wrong place, and I have this 3x on the right side, and it's on the everything else side, but it has an x with it, so it should be on the left side. So that's going to become a minus 3x on the left side. So it's gone. So now everything is on the correct side, so I need to do some math. Negative 2x minus 3x is negative 5x. Is greater than or equal to negative 5 plus 14 would be a positive 9. And again, I just did some math to figure that out. If you're not sure about the negative 2x minus 3x, think about a number line. Here's a negative 2 on the number line. If I want to subtract 3 from that, I need to go to the left. 1, 2, 3. That'd be negative 3, negative 4, and negative 5 is where you would end up. So now back to my problem. I have negative 5. X is greater than or equal to 9. Remember that negative 5 and that x are multiplied. And if I'm trying to undo multiplication, then I need to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. Notice that this time I divided by a negative number. So this 5 here was a negative 5 because it was a negative 5x. Anytime I divide by a negative, my inequality sign must flip direction, so it is going to be a less than or equal to. So I am left with x on the left side is less than or equal to 9 divided by negative 5. That is a pretty decimal. It is negative 1.8, so you're welcome to write negative 1.8. So that would be my answer. X is less than or equal to negative 1.8. So problem number 3, I have 4 minus 6 times 1 half x minus 1 is greater than 2 times x minus 10. So again, just a bigger problem because it's got more parentheses, but nothing overwhelming. So I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to label my sides. I have x's on the left and everything else on the right. Before I do anything else, I need to get rid of my parentheses. I need to distribute. So when I do that, I'm taking what's outside the parentheses. So on the left side, that's negative 6 times 1 half, which would be negative 3x. A negative times a positive is a negative. And then negative 6 times negative 1 would be a positive 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And I'm just going to bring down that 4 that was already there. Then on the right side, I have 2 times x, which is 2x, and 2 times negative 10 would be negative 20. My sign in the middle is still a greater than, so I'm going to leave that alone. So now that I've distributed, all I need to do is figure out what is on the wrong side of the line. So if I'm looking, I need to make sure that on the left side, everything has an x attached to it. Well, this 4 doesn't have an x, so I need to move that. So that's going to become a minus 4 on the left side, so that 4 is gone. Also notice that this 6 doesn't have an x attached to it here, so I need to get rid of that 6, and when I do that, it'll become a minus 6, so that is gone. Nothing else on the left side needs to move, but looking at the right side, notice I have this 2x. And this 2x obviously has an x attached to it, but it's not on the x side, so I need to move that. So this 2x is going to go, and it's going to become a negative 2x because it was a positive 2x. So now everything is on the correct side, so I can do my math. Negative 3x minus 2x is negative 5x is greater than. Negative 20 minus 4 minus 6 is going to be negative 30. So I need to get x by itself. Well, that's negative 5 multiplied by x. So to get rid of multiplication or to undo multiplication, I need to divide. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 5. Notice that I divided by a negative number. And anytime I divide by a negative, I must flip the direction of my inequality sign. So that negative 5x divided by negative 5 is just going to be x. Negative 30 divided by negative 9 would be positive 6. So x is less than 6 would be my answer. If this whole flipping the inequality sign thing is confusing you, because sometimes that does get confusing. If you look back at this step, notice that it was negative 5x, now this x is positive. It was negative 30, and now the right side is positive. So because we switched the left side and the right side, those signs, we had to switch the sign in the middle. We can't leave that sign out. Number 4, I have 4 times x plus 1 is less than or equal to 4x plus 11. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my line, label my sides. So x is on the left, everything else on the right. And on the left side, I do need to distribute. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 1 is 4. And then on the right side, I still have less than or equal to 4x plus 11. So some things that are on the wrong side, I have this plus 4 that needs to move, so it's going to be a minus 4 because it was on the x side and it doesn't have an x with it. And I have this 4x right here that's on the right side. It's on the everything else side, but it has x with it, so I'm going to move that, and it's going to become a negative 4x, so that is gone. So now everything is on the correct side. I just need to do my math. So I have 4x minus 4x, which is 0, is less than or equal to 11 minus 4 is 7. So remember, any time that all of your x's disappear, so anytime all of my x's disappear, then my answer falls into one of two categories. It either has no solution or it has infinite solutions. The way we know is we look at what we're left with. No solution means that it is not true. If it has no solutions, it is not true. Not true are things like, here's some examples for you. In an equation, it would be like 4 equals 12. or 0 equals 14. Those things are not true. 4 does not equal 12. 0 does not equal 14. In an inequality, it would be something like 4 is greater than or equal to 12. Well, 4 is not greater than or equal to 12, so this would be no solution. Or you could have something like 3 is less than or equal to -7. 3 is not less than or equal to -7. So again, that would not be true. If it has infinite solutions, that means that it is always true. And the way this one works out is the equation or the inequality that you see is true. So some examples is in equations, you could have 7 equals 7, or you could have 0 equals 0. In an inequality, you could have 5 is less than 13, because 5 is less than 13. Or maybe you have 4 is greater than -10, which is also true. So anytime all of your x's disappear, then it's going to fall into one of these two categories, either no solution or infinite solution. So we have to decide what it is. So 0, going back to our problem number 4, says 0 is less than or equal to 7. Well, the question is this true? Is 0 less than or equal to 7? Yes, it is. So that means that this particular problem has infinite solutions. The answer to number 4 would be infinite solutions, because 0 really is less than or equal to 7. All right, number 5, I have -3 plus 1/3 times 6x minus 12 is less than or equal to 4x minus 2 times x plus 10. So before I can do anything, I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to label my sides. I do have some distribution that I need to take care of. So I'm always distributing what's right in front of the parentheses. So 1/3 times x. If you're not sure what that is, use your calculator to help you out. 1/3 times 6 is 2x, because there was an x there. And then 1/3 times a -12. Remember, that's a positive number times a negative number. And a positive times a negative is negative. That's going to give us -4. I'm going to bring down my -3. This 2x here, I don't have a sign there, but a positive times a positive is a positive. So this 2x is positive 2x. And then on the right side, I still have less than or equal to. I need to distribute what's right in front of the parentheses. So -2 times x would be -2x. -2 times 10 would be -20. And then I'm going to bring down that 4x that was already there. So now I just have to get everything to the correct side to make sure that before I start doing anything else. So looking for what needs to move. The first thing I'm noticing that needs to move is I have this -3 here on the left. It doesn't have an x with it, so it's going to become a +3 on the right when I move it over. And I'm looking to see what else is on the wrong side. I'm still just looking at the x side right now, and notice on the x side I have this 2x, that's good, but I have a -4 that doesn't have x with it, so I need to move that -4, and it's going to become a +4, so that is gone. I keep moving to the right, looking at the other side, and I'm looking for things that don't need to be there. So notice I have both a +4x and a -2x. Both of these have x with them, and they're not on the x side, so I need to move both of them over. So this 4x is currently positive. When I move it over, it's going to become negative. And my -2x here is negative, so when I move it over, it is going to become positive 2x. So that is gone as well. So now I'm going to do the math. Well, I have 2x minus 4x plus 2x. That is going to give me 0 is less than or equal to -20 plus 3 plus 4 is going to give me -13. So again, this is just like that last problem where all of my x's disappeared. So I have to decide, does this have no solution or infinite solution? Well, if I look at my problem, 0 is less than or equal to -13. This is not true. 0 is not less than or equal to -13. So this means that for this problem, I have no solution. It means there is no actual answer. There's no way this is ever going to work. All right, our last problem, number 6, says 3x minus 2 times x minus 4 is less than negative x minus 13. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my line and label my sides. So I have x's on one side, everything else that's not an x on the other. Looking at the left side, I have parentheses, and we've talked about this over and over again. We don't want parentheses. We need to distribute what is right in front of the parentheses. So negative 2 times x would be negative 2x. And negative 2 times a negative 4 would be a positive 8, because a negative times a negative is a positive. And I'm going to bring down that 3x. On the right side, I don't have any parentheses, so I'm just going to rewrite negative x minus 13. So now I need to get everything to the correct side. Well, everything on the left side should have an x with it. 3x is good, negative 2x is good, 8 is not good. So I need to move that 8. It currently is a positive 8. When I move it, it becomes a negative 8, and it's gone. So now I need to move over to the right side. The first thing I have is negative x. That should be on the x side, so I'm going to move that. And when I move that negative x, it is going to become a positive x on the left side. So that is gone. And then the negative 13 doesn't have an x with it, so that's good. So now I can just do my math. And on the left side, I have 3x minus 2x, that's 1x, plus x. Remember, if I don't have a coefficient, that coefficient is a 1. So that really leaves me with 2x on the left side is less than negative 13 minus 8 is negative 21 on the right side. And to get x completely by itself, remember 2 and x are multiplied. So to get rid of something that's multiplied, I need to divide. And this 2 that I am dividing by is a positive 2. And the reason I know this 2 is positive is because it was a positive 2x there. So because it's positive, I know I'm not going to change my sign. So I'm going to end up with my answer of x is less than negative 10.5. That's a pretty decimal, so we can leave it like that.